Welcome to the A for Effort series, Short Stuff. My name's Lexx Fusco.
And I'm Connor McKibben Vaughn.
And we will be reacting to some short form content I've written over the years, varying from, age 8 to 18. And it's, short stories, writing prompts I did for creative writing classes in high school, random treatments I started doing before I realized what treatments were. I will make Connor and some guests suffer through some poetry, just, the short stuff of it all. Thank you for listening, and don't forget, you're not good at something until you suck at it first. Welcome to the A for Effort series, Short Stuff. I'm Lexx Fusco, and joining me as always is my wonderful husband and fellow writer in crime, Connor McKibben Vaughn.
Stick 'em up. Because we're in crime.
In crime, yeah. Today we are tackling not only a kind of a weird thing, because it's one of the very few things I actually continued from my creative writing class, but it's the first handwritten thing we've tackled.
Yeah, you're holding a stack of notebook paper torn from the notebook.
Yeah.
Just it's got a bunch of
these sticky notes are post high school. This is when I was organizing it for the podcast specifically.
Okay. Is it multiple things in there, or is this all one big project?
It's all one big project, but it's something that I continued throughout the year. So
the project was maybe like write a page, and you wrote the page, and then like later you just kept writing.
Oh yeah. Because I think now I still even really like this idea. I don't think I'll ever do anything with it, but it is really fun.
You're talking about the concept of...
Yeah, I'm talking about the concept that we're going to tackle, because I also then developed it further, and we're going to read the development pages at the end of this. So
to see where
go. To see where I wanted it to go, like what the whole thing was. So I started writing this on September 23rd when I was in 9th grade.
Oh,
so I had just started high school. So it just says writing assignment. No actual assignment. It just says writing assignment.
No title other than...
Well, no, I have the title of the thing. I just don't know what the assignment was.
Oh, it was just...
writing assignment.
An assignment.
Yeah. So let's jump right in.
Sure.
Archive 66, version 1.
Ooh. You knew that this was going to be a draft of a draft.
And I apologize in advance if it takes me a minute to read things, because
you're reading your own old handwriting.
I'm reading not only my old handwriting, but my old handwriting in pencil, so it's kind of faded.
Yeah, it's smudged. It's old.
Okay, let's just jump right in. Chris Smythe walked into the deli and trudged over to the counter. His light blonde bangs hung in his face and concealed his clear blue eyes. What?
He can't see anything?
I can't see nothing. He's got that emo boy swag hair.
But not the right color.
No.
He's just grown out his hair, essentially.
Yes.
So he looks like every 13-year-old who doesn't like to cut their hair.
He's not 13. He's in his 20s, I believe.
Well, you were 13.
I was 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah. He shoved his hand into the pocket of his green Mountain Dew hoodie and fished out a $5 bill.
Ugh, Mountain Dew?
Chris looked up from his purple etnies to the woman behind the register. This is a very specific human that I've built.
What are those?
Etnies are like puffy skater shoes.
Oh, you're building a picture here.
Yeah.
They were purple?
Yep, his purple etnies.
Mountain Dew?
A green Mountain Dew hoodie.
Those colors clash.
She was no older than he was. She may have been 19, 20 tops.
Okay.
At least we clarified that. Her honey...
You know what age they both are.
Yeah.
It was a roundabout way of getting the right information, but, we got there.
Her honey blonde hair was wrapped in a loose bun, and her amber eyes seemed to hold no pupil. Her lips were dark and red and shimmered. She opened her plump mouth and smiled.
Plump mouth?
Plump mouth and smiled. How can I help you, sir? She asked oddly seductively.
What is Is this smut?
No,
You've
no.
described her lips, and she said something seductive, so.
A Pepsi and a home run hero, please.
What the hell is a home run hero?
It's probably a hoagie of some kind. Chris stuttered. She giggled. Chris.
Why? That's so off-putting. So, can you imagine you're like trying to just buy your shit at a convenience store and they just start giggling at your order?
She's pretty. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's not like you're picturing a schoolgirl thing.
It's like
when
an
really
anime.
It could just be just like.
Oh my god, you fucking nerd. Chris searched for a name tag but couldn't find one. Her tight orange halter top had a red spray design on it that seemed to capture Chris's attention. You like? She wondered. Chris ripped his lustful eyes away from her bust and
Yikes.
and
Bust?
and couldn't answer. She smiled and gave him his order. He paid her and turned to leave. As Chris went to exit...
Wait. Say that again?
He paid her and turned to leave.
Oh, okay.
As Chris went to the exit, the woman looked down at the mutilated body at her feet.
A sudden turn.
A sudden turn. Her hair grew longer, greasier.
Ugh. This person is transforming in
and
the...
scraggly. Her skin began to gray. Her lips grew thin and peeled back to reveal sharp, jagged yellow teeth. Her body got thinner. Her nails became claws. Chris turned around. The woman jumped at him, her teeth chomping at the air. He ducked and rolled into the next aisle.
Just... She's jumping teeth first at this man and just snapping them together.
She's hungry. He wrapped his hands around a mop and put his body into a batter's stance. Why aren't I running? What am I doing? Should I get milk while I'm here? These were the thoughts running frantically through his head.
You should. You won't have to pay for it once you kill the cashier.
Once you kill this cashier.
I mean, you're looting a little bit.
But here she killed the cashier. That was the mutilated body at her feet, I'm going to assume.
That's just there all the time.
Oh, that's just part of the store. The store was silent aside from the Sum 41 song that played on the loudspeaker.
Oh, you've set this to a soundtrack already.
You're goddamn right.
And it's any Sum 41 song. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The woman came up behind him and sank her jagged fangs into Chris's shoulder. He let out a yelp and a few choice phrases. He sent his elbow...
That's always your go-to when you want to just say, he was saying them bad words.
He was saying, fuck. He sent his elbow into her chest and she fell backwards.
Also, she's a hag, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
He faced her. Her chin was stained with his blood. I had to want a sandwich, Chris regretted in his head. He swung the mop at her and
I can't tell if, this is his job and that's why he's casual about it, or you thought it was really cool to have him just be, nonchalant this whole time.
I feel like he hasn't fully registered what's happening yet.
Oh, he's in fight or flight mode and he just went to fight?
His body is in fight, but his brain is very much anywhere else right now.
Okay.
It's kind of... If you've seen Upgrade, the absolute cinematic gem that is, it's very much like that kind of dissonance.
Okay.
He swung the mop at her and it made contact with her skull. She went flying into the case of meats, and that's where she stayed for a minute. I now know what this is. Okay. I remember hitting
It sounded like you knew what it was before we started, but...
Oh, I know what the writing assignment was.
Oh.
Yes.
What was it?
I remember hitting my first home run like that. Guess I still got it, Chris gloated as he panted. So, this is a callback to our first short stuff episode from the exposed petite paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
So the assignment of petite paragraphs was we were supposed to write, obviously, petite paragraphs, but they all started with a line that was given to us. And the line here was... I remember hitting my first home run.
And this is what you built out of that.
I took that and put it in a story, despite the fact that I remember hitting my first home run, the petite paragraph was totally different. It was about the batting virgin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what this assignment is. This is a jumping off point from that.
Okay. So this is the same dude who hit that home run.
No, this is just the same line. I just used it in a different context. That was probably the assignment was, hey, remember those petite paragraphs that we did? Use that line in something longer.
Okay.
So the line was, I remember hitting my first home run like that. Guess I still got it, Chris gloated as he panted. He walked to where he dropped his lunch, and his cell phone flew from his pocket.
Just like jumped out?
Mm-hmm. Maybe he took it out. What a weird way to have phrased that, Alexis.
Oh, he's like using it now.
Chris got ready to call 911 when the woman pounced on him. He hit the ground face first. She flipped him over onto his back and opened up her foul mouth over his jugular.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Haha, just like he's about to be.
Oh, it's all of them, and I hate it. It's all of the petite paragraph sentences.
It's just mashed into one thing.
And they're not well put in.
I mean, the first one kind of worked.
I remember my first taste of immortality and power. It was finer than wine, sweeter than honey, and something not easily forgotten. Your blood stings my mouth as it did, she whispered. Chris was shocked such a serenading voice could come from something so terrible. He shut his eyes tight as her mouth grew wider and he embraced his fate. Hey, skank, a voice called. The woman looked up and Chris angled his head to see who his hero was. It was a youngish guy with black spiky hair and shades covering his eyes.
What age was he? Youngish. That could mean 12, that could mean 21. What are you saying?
I think he's actually probably in his 30s.
Ooh, you have a very different definition of youngish.
No, I don't. The problem is I see them as they should be, and their ages are just always wrong. He had a triumphant grin on his face, as if this was all some kind of inside joke. He wore a black long-sleeve shirt and ripped jeans. And he held an odd-looking firearm that was aimed at the cannibalistic demonic cashier. She screamed, and there was a bang. Chris was sprayed with a black mist, and she flopped dead on top of him. Well, I remember my first roller coaster ride, and it was sweet, the guy laughed.
That one didn't work.
Oh, I thought we were sharing.
Okay.
Marks, nice shot. I'll get the kid, Chris heard another voice say. Chris pushed the body off, and Marks's arm lifted him up from the ground. A chick was standing next to Marks. Just Marks. His last name is Marks. It's not great. A chick was standing next to Marks. She had light brown hair pulled...
A chick. You know, a dame.
A dame.
A gal.
A broad. She had light brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had beautiful green eyes. She wore a long leather jacket, a brown shirt, and black slacks. She also had the weird gun. Well, that was
They were holding it together because there's only the one.
What?
Not she was holding another weird gun. It was the same. It implies it's the same gun.
Yeah.
So they're holding the gun
together. Well, that was some ridiculous PMS, Chris joked. You know what? I bet if you put a gun to someone's head and you gave them most of my old writing, they'd be like, who wrote this? And every time it would be a 10-year-old boy. Every time. He wiped his face with his sleeve. The girl laughed and Marks looked at her. Don't get chummy, Sabrina, Marks warned. It didn't stop her from getting in a final chuckle. Sabrina pulled out a silver necklace with a black stone as the jewelry from her pocket. Memoria Actinitia Sabria, she said, holding the amulet before her. It glowed purple, and then they readied to exit. The body was now gone. Hey, wait, what happened to her? Chris called. The two stopped dead.
We killed her. Her blood's all over your face.
Why is he not brainwiped? Did you say it wrong? Marks whispered. Yeah, Carter, I've been doing this for 3 years, and I did it wrong, she seethed.
That's some natural exposition. I'm not joking.
Thank you. She turned around and repeated what she had done before. Well, that's cool and all, but it still doesn't answer my question,
He is
Chris
still
added.
very calm. He's way too calm. He might be stoned.
I mean, he's wearing a Mountain Dew hoodie and purple etnies. I wouldn't be
he's
surprised.
Very high.
Sabrina flicked the stone with a manicured finger. We could just shoot him, Marks grinned giddily as he laid out his suggestion.
Fuck!
Sabrina slapped him upside the head.
Marks, you've been killing for too long. You don't know what real things... You don't know that there's any other way to do this.
Excuse me? Chris questioned. Who are you? Sabrina asked. Chris can't... He was caught off when something hard hit him on the back of the head. His vision grew dark and he thumped to the ground. Nice shot, Kat, Marks congratulated. A girl, about 15, stood over Chris. She had long blonde hair with fiery red tips.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a very particular set of people in my brain.
Who's that?
Kat wore a tight leather strapless top.
Oh.
And short black shorts. Her hair...
Why is the 15-year-old wearing the least amount of clothing?
Well, because she's not actually 15. Her eyes were blood red and fangs glistened in her smile. Her eyes were blood red and fangs glistened in her smile. They retracted and her eyes were saturated by blue-gray. No problemo, she agreed. Was it my okay I did in real life, or was it my tone?
It was all of it. It were the words that were being spoken. It was the way they were being spoken. And it was the motion of the okay.
She agreed. Sabrina rolled her eyes and threw her arms up in the air. It's okay, because she's not actually 15. She's a vampire. She's old.
That's like... It's a real bad excuse. She still looks
15. What? Kat questioned. Sabrina knelt by Chris and checked his shoulder and to see if Kat had broken his neck. Well, you didn't kill him, Sabrina sighed in relief. She heard a grunt of disappointment come from Marks.
Jesus. I really think that Marks has a problem.
This is an inconvenience to him.
No, he's disappointed that a boy didn't die.
He smells weird. He's making me hungry, Kat informed. Her eyes started to swirl back to red, but she blinked and they were once again normal. What do you mean? He a fang? Fleabag? What? Mark suggested. Not a vamp. And if the Sierra went after him, he can't be a werewolf. They are really tough to chew through. And dog tastes like sushi that's been rotting at the bottom of a dumpster for a decade, Kat argued. She crouched down and swiped her finger along his wound until her pale finger was stained crimson. You're not gonna... Sabrina began, but Kat put her finger in her mouth and her eyes exploded red. She bared her fangs and did a backflip and landed on the counter.
like she was like a surprise cat?
She snarled and got ready to pounce when two large, muscular arms wrapped around her. You may want to get the boy to a car, a low, brooding voice suggested. Sabrina waved.
Wait, so that means that it was supposed to sound like, you may want to get him to a car.
Yeah. It's John Wick, circa 2009.
Whoa.
Yeah. Sabrina waved Marks over and he reluctantly pulled Chris up. They took him out to a large black SUV where the twins sat in the back.
This is a really big team.
This is. And we don't know who grabbed Kat, by the way.
Yeah, that's another man.
They were as young as Kat, but not as ravenous. One had white hair and light blue eyes. He wore an off-white mobster suit with a matching fedora atop his head.
Oh, you had a very specific vision for that boy.
The other boy had black hair with streaks of purple in it. His eyes were dark brown with huge pupils. He wore a black long sleeve.
Is he high?
No. He wore a black long sleeve Volcom shirt and dark baggy pants.
Oh.
Dave, Darian, you're babysitting.
Darian?
Darian. I was a big Tuxedo Mask fan. Thanks for sending Griffin in, by the way, Marks greeted. Chris groggily opened his eyes and he moaned.
Now we know the muscular man's name.
It's Griffin, yeah. He's waking up, Dave and Darian said simultaneously. Darian raised his hand and fixed his hat. Then his hand was charged with black electricity. No, Sabrina warned. Dave's hand was outlined with white light and he placed his palm on Chris's forehead and his eyes fluttered back closed. Get it? Dave's the one dressed in all black, but his powers are colored white. And Darian's dressed in all white, but his colors are black.
Yin and yang. I don't...
one's ever done that before.
Not with such confidence.
Sabrina and Marks got up front and began to drive. Griffin pushed Cat up against the wall. His perfect dirty blonde hair was messed. His eyes were red too. He bared his fangs as Cat snarled at him. Griffin was lanky, but his muscular arms were nearly ripping through his thin gray shirt.
So he wasn't lanky.
I think I legitimately, someone described Sam Winchester as lanky, and I immediately believed that just to be tall.
Nope.
Cat, he yelled. Her eyes became bloodshot and her fangs got longer. Griffin pressed his forearm against her throat. His other arm reached into his pocket. He took out a syringe and injected the blood inside into Cat's chest. She fell limp and he caught her. I'm sorry, he mumbled.
There's a lot of infighting in this team. I don't trust them get anything done.
Chris opened his eyes. The light hurt as his retinas captured it. He heard the beeping of a heart monitor and felt an IV pulling in his arm as he sat up. Darian stood brooding on one side of the bed, and Dave stood grinning on the other. Who?
Oh, boy.
Chris asked. His shoulder throbbed, and the fresh stitches secreted pus onto the bandage.
Ew.
I'm Darian, the white one answered. And I'm Dave. You are? The dark-dressed one asked. Chris, he answered. Good morning, Sabrina smiled as she entered the room. Chris got up, but both twins forced him back down. Marks, Cat, and Griffin entered in behind Sabrina. What do you know? What's your classification? Are you with the Assassins or the Thorn? Marks began interrogating when Cat elbowed him in the gut. He's on our side. Remember what the boss said? Cat warned. Mark shut his mouth. The boss.
Someone we haven't even met.
Marks shut his mouth and rubbed his hand against the gun in his holster. It makes him feel better.
Anyway, I just start blasting.
Cat, Griffin, and Sabrina stood on the side of the bed by Dave and Darian. Marks glared at Chris from his own side of the bed.
So everyone's on one side, and then Marks is just...
Yeah, he's just at the foot. It's fine. You're Chris Smythe, age 18, orphan, lives over the bookstore you work at. You seem clean and boring, but our boss wants to keep you around, Marks informed. Well, it seems you know a lot about me, Chris added. I'm Cat, and this is Griffin. Sorry for almost killing you earlier, Cat stated. No hard feelings, Chris told.
Why?
Dave hummed. What's wrong? Darian asked his brother. Boss brought in newbie's initiation target. Sorry, Cat and Griff, Dave informed. What? Chris asked. Dave helped him up from the bed and detached him from the machines. Sabrina threw Chris a shirt and Cat threw him a steak. Griffin led Chris from the hospital room and into the hallway. He placed his hand on Chris's good shoulder. Good luck, don't die, were his final words of encouragement. Chris didn't get the choice to oppose or ask anything because Griffin was then gone. A man stood a few feet away from Chris.
Did they vanish or did they just leave?
I think they just left. He had to be 350 pounds of pure muscle. He had a shaved head and his torso and arms were riddled with tattoos. His eyes were beady, but Chris could see that they were red.
Oh, this is the coolest man that ever lived.
His mouth was stuffed with sharp teeth. Chris began to get the
like
idea.
A shark?
Yeah. Chris began to get the idea when Tiny charged him. Chris was thrown to the side when the man's fist made contact with his face. The steak rolled away. The vampire grabbed Chris by the hair and jerked his head back.
I'm glad you finally said
it is a vampire. Chris delivered an elbow to the vamp's side and then headbutted him. The vamp released and
He's
Chris...
just headbutting people as an 18-year-old
Yep. And
nobody?
Chris scrambled away. He grabbed the steak and turned. The vampire was right behind him. Chris rammed...
You don't do that right.
You're fucked.
You hurt yourself.
Chris rammed the steak up through the... Oh, Jesus Christ.
What?
Chris rammed the steak up through the man's jaw and it popped through the top of his head.
Just all the way through?
Just all the way through.
From chin into brain.
Shoved through the top of his skull.
Through mouth.
Yup.
Up into brain and then out the top.
Yup.
Ooh.
The man gurgled and pulled at the...
He's still alive, though, because he's a vampire. That's not how you kill him with a steak.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't destroy the brainstem. The man gurgled and pulled the
stake
stake.
to the heart.
I know, but if you destroy a vampire's brainstem, they'll also ash. If you cut off their heads, they can also die.
I mean, I knew about the head cutting. You sever the brainstem? I thought it was having to do with you're literally separating like the mind from the body.
Yeah, the brainstem.
Okay, you're just trying to be a scientist about it.
Well, no, because like you can shoot a vampire in the head, and if you don't destroy, like if you don't disconnect the brain from the rest of the body, if they just sustain brain damage, like they'll still be alive.
And this is based off of the old tales.
This is based off of my vampire lore specifically.
Oh,
that is
your
something.
Own.
Yeah, that is something consistent I keep through everything vampire I ever write.
Okay, I was making fun of the fact that like. No, there were very specific ways to kill a vampire back in the olden days.
Back in the olden days of old.
And I don't think any of them had to do with the brainstem because they didn't know what that was.
The man gurgled and pulled the stake out, much to Chris's surprise.
You've accepted that vampires are real and you immediately forget that you have to stake them in the heart.
Then Chris remembered watching more than a few episodes of Buffy with his friend. He hit the he hit
classic pop culture reference.
Yep. He hit the stake from the bloody vamp's hand, and Chris jammed it through the vampire's chest into its heart. He exploded into ash on contact.
He just took it from the vampire.
He's like, "Give me that." To the vampire's defense, he has holes through most of his head.
Yeah, but he pulled it out and then should have just been like, aha, I've got it now, and I'm still alive.
Is confused. He exploded into ash on contact. Chris was panting and he wiped the blood from his mouth. The door opened in front of him. Dave and Darian simultaneously held up their hands for high fives, and Kat gave him a hug.
Nice going, bro. You could have died.
Chris smiled and hugged Kat while high-fiving the twins. Sabrina,
he's all on board now. He's like, yeah, you guys kidnapped me. You almost tried to kill me, but we're cool.
Twice. Sabrina and Griffin stood with approving smiles on their faces while Marks was looking at his phone. Marks looked up from his BlackBerry and nodded at Sabrina.
His BlackBerry?
Yeah, he's an adult. He doesn't have a flip phone. He has a BlackBerry. What's that mean? Chris asked. It means everything you think you know is wrong, and we intend on remedying that and making you one of us, Kat said, pulling away from Chris.
Wait, you mean I don't have a choice in this?
Huh? Chris asked. Welcome to Archive 66, Sabrina nodded. And that's where the first writing prompt ended.
That was it?
Yeah, that's where it ended initially.
Oh, did you did you write the dates for every time you kept writing?
Yeah, I did. So on October 1st, 2009.
Okay.
It just says writing prompt again.
Okay.
And it says Chronicle 2, the Disney version. So we don't continue from that point. Chris has just joined Archive 66.
Okay, so Archive 66, and now this is not Archive 66. This is not. What is this?
This is Archive 66. This is just the next episode, I guess.
Call it?
Chronicle 2.
Okay, 'cause I was like, Archive 66, and then the next thing's just called Chronicle 2.
So I think Archive 66 is like the precinct.
Okay.
And the chronicles are the cases that they work.
Oh.
And chronicles are stored in archives.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say that works are stored in archives.
Chronicle 2.
Tomes.
The Disney version. This is written in pen, by the way.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Not a kid anymore.
The small girl stared in awe as the shining light in front of her began to dim. Her eyes were as wide as her mouth with wonder. Her small black braids swayed in the breeze. No, her mouth's open like, oh.
I know. But if it's still the size of her eyeballs.
Oh. Hank, her brother, sat next to her on the park bench. Hank, look, the child begged, then returned to her observational position. Hank reluctantly looked up. The light faded, and before the children was a small cottage. Where did that come from? The brother gasped. The girl began to walk to it. Kaylee, get back here, Hank hissed. The wind blew again, and a wonderful scent flooded their nostrils. Kaylee ran her finger over the white frame of the door. Thick goop globbed onto her finger, and she stuck it in her mouth.
Why? That is a terrible. That could be fungus.
It could be caulk. It's frosting, Kaylee exclaimed.
Oh, thank God. It's just a creepy, weird witch woman. It's not you eating dangerous chemicals for no reason. You are assumedly 7?
The sweet, inviting smell of gingerbread filled the children's noses. Hank went next to his sister. The windows were colored sugar glass, and the panes were strips of licorice. The gingerbread foundation was splashed with powdered sugar and Sour Patch Kids dust. Chocolate balls. I know, it's not a good combination. Chocolate balls dangled from the roof. The
balls.
The doorknob was a giant green gummy bear. Kaylee put her hand against the house. It was warm and soft. She grabbed a fistful of it and tossed it into her mouth. No wonder these children will probably die.
like the witch comes up, hey, what the hell? You're supposed to just think like cool candy. You maybe take a bite of my doorknob. I got 10 of those, but you're just eating my wall.
Do you know how fucking long this took?
What the
This
hell?
took months.
Who goes for graham cracker first?
Who goes for gingerbread foundation? Ever. Hank bit right into a window. Jesus Christ.
That's hard candy. You don't just bite into hard candy. What the hell is wrong with both of you?
It's fucking sugar glass. That's not great. Okay. Hank just bit straight up into a window and grumbled and chewed ravenously. This sight was no longer a pretty one.
Yeah, his mouth is bleeding.
The door opened up and the beasts stopped eating. An old woman stood there.
Beasts?
The children. She looked as sweet as her home. Her snow white hair was like a fluffy cotton ball upon an egg. Her inviting hazel eyes swirled like chocolate. Her neat, wrinkly face smiled. Yes, she's an egg. She wore a light blue dress with a white apron covering her front. She held on to a crooked, twisty old cane with her bony hand. Well, my darlings, it looks like you've finished, and I have many more sweets in my house, she greeted.
I'm sorry, I haven't finished eating your window. Give me a moment.
She greeted in a chuckle. Kaylee nearly zoomed through the door, but Hank grabbed her arm. Maybe not. We should probably go home, Hank opposed. Still mouthful of window.
We should go home.
Kaylee pulled away and right into the house behind the old woman. Kaylee, he called. The woman snickered something and retreated back into the house. And the door closed. It faded away. Hank banged on the surface where it had once been. Kaylee! Inside the house, Kaylee sat on top of a gumdrop at the table of cakes, goodies, and treats smothered in yumminess. Do these treats please you, my child? The woman asked. Kaylee nodded as she chomped into.
Asking all the wrong questions.
Kaylee nodded as she chomped into a slice of dark chocolate cake. Her eyes grew wide again, and her small face was shaded a light green. She spat the cake out and looked at it. Maggots fell out of the mud pie that melted through her fingers. The woman was short and fat. She was bent over, and her white hair was gray, greasy, and had things crawling through it. Her nose was crooked and warts.
Things could mean insects. Things could mean squirrels.
or paper clips. Warts sprayed her face. Her one eye was missing, and the other was milky white. My, dear. You look good enough to eat, she croaked.
We about to watch another child get murdered?
Goddamn right. Kaylee screamed. What do we got? Giant killer bee? Werewolf attack? Gnomes with flamethrowers? Chris questioned giddily as Griffin drove. Dave and Darian sat in the back laughing at Chris's suggestions.
No, a little girl got eaten.
Missing girl. No gnomes. Griffin brooded. I see Griffin's the fun one of the group. Chris frowned.
Like, that means, like, a little girl's missing. Like, he's staring out the window, not facing any of them, kind of like speaking into the window. A little girl went missing.
No gnomes.
What? I couldn't hear you. I said shut up.
Chris frowned as his shoulders fell, disappointed. At the crime scene, Marks and Sabrina were standing by the house. When Griffin pulled the car over, Chris jumped out and sunlight poured into the car. Griffin hissed and began to burn. "Sorry," Chris yelled and slammed the door shut.
Wait, what makes these two vampires different from the one that they just offered up as murder victim?
What do you mean?
The Griffin and Kat.
What do you mean different, though? Like, what makes them allowed to be on the team?
Or what makes them not be murder food?
Oh, I mean, they're probably reformed in some way, shape, or form. But that's the end of the Disney version.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Just Is that all of it?
That is all the written content that I have for Archive 66.
So you only wrote like 2 times.
Yeah. And neither of which are complete stories.
They're just scenes that sort of end.
Yeah. But I here in my hand, I have a smaller notebook paper.
Yeah, this is a different book, obviously.
This is a different book. I revisited Archive 66 when I took Fine Art, Film, and Animation 2 years later as a junior.
Okay, different person.
Different set of like storytelling idea at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Still was writing it as a book. Absolutely was totally writing it as a television show in my heart.
That's like your mantra.
Yeah, that's like my problem. So here were other series titles I came up with outside of Archive 66.
These were for other types of stories or just alternate titles?
No, this is if I didn't want to call it Archive 66.
Okay, so alt titles.
Yeah. I could call it Unit X, Unit 66, Creeping, Chronicle, or Archive, and then in parentheses 66.
Because that's different.
Yeah. The agency name would then change depending on what the title of the show was.
What was the agency called?
The agency is called Archive 66.
Oh.
So it could be Unit X, Unit 66, or Archive 66.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here are the agents, and in parentheses, good guys. Just in case.
Good to know.
Yeah.
The officers, the federal officers are the good guys.
Vampire Girl.
Not Cat.
No, there are options for names. This is just the classification.
Oh.
Vampire Girl. Veronica Veneer. Meredith Veneer. Lila Veneer. Kat Veneer.
You really wanted to point out that veneers were a kind of tooth. And so, of course,
it's Vanir.
Different spelling,
Yeah.
but it's the same goddamn word.
I didn't even realize that until just now, by the way. That's smart. Vampire Boy. Max Griffin. Jack Mason. Michael Griffin.
Jack Mason. I'm sorry. Tom Clancy's already written 10 novels about that man.
Carter O'Malley and Michael Griffin. Human Girl. Meredith Trofa. Kate Smythe. Heather Atkins. Samantha Atkins. What? What are you giggling at? What are you mocking
Each one
me
of
about?
those was more ridiculous than the last.
Why? What makes that ridiculous? Human Boy. Carter Marks. Jeremy Marks. Sam Marks. Daniel Marks. I hate that last name so fucking much.
Marks.
I'm so angry at myself right now.
Yeah, it's bad.
And then
that was all the options were Marks. You just wanted that man to be called Marks. You didn't give a shit about his first name.
the new guy is either Chris Smythe, Danny Smythe, Ryan Smythe, or Jason Smythe.
You really like the name Smythe because it's the second character who was going to have that last
Yeah.
name potentially.
The research / lab guys.
There's
Could be-
always lab guys?
There's always lab
Even
guys.
in Supernatural world?
Yep. They can be called lab rats, toads, brain boys, or leeches.
That's it? Those are the only options?
Those are the only
Those
options.
are the only things we're allowed to call them? Are you really sure?
And those characters are Jake Civic, Martin Thomas, Zion, and Neil Montrose.
That's a very wide spread of cultures and.
Yep. The chief is either going to be Captain Levi Grant.
No, he's not.
Captain Henry Davis.
Okay.
Just Boss. Or just Axe.
AXE?
AX. Like the chop, chop, chop.
No, that's AXE.
Here's some reoccurring bad guys. There are 2 vampires, Selena Stone and Liam Morrow. There are demonic twins, Lucy and Live.
Oh,
look at that!
Hey,
at that!
That's a callback.
Yeah.
You were gonna connect the 2 stories.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
We're gonna finally find out what the Malice Guardians are.
That's gonna be in this notebook.
Then there were the Assassins, a group of mixed breeds, vampires, witches, werewolves, etc. And then just a note that says Liam is a shapeshifter.
Which one's Liam?
I don't. Well, apparently he was a fucking vampire in the last thing that I wrote.
Oh.
So, Archive 66. Everything you think you know is wrong. Welcome to Archive 66.
That's not helpful information. What part's the worst that I don't know?
Okay, so I finally decided on names.
Oh, good.
Okay, so we found the solidified
refined list.
Yes. So section 1, that's what our team is called. Captain Thomas Davis is Boss. Agent Samantha Atkins is Sam. Agent Chris Smythe is Chris. Agent Carter Marks is Marks. Agent David X is David X or Thing 1.
Okay.
Agent Darius Y is Darius Y or Thing 2. Agent Cat Veneer
What
is
are they?
Cat or V.
I thought they were just.
They are doppelgangers.
Oh. I don't know what that means, to be honest.
They are beings of pure demonic electricity, basically.
Cool. That's not what a doppelganger means in any capacity.
Agent Cat Veneer is Cat or V, and Agent Michael Griffin is Michael or Griffin.
You can call me by my first name or my last name.
I respond to both. The Brain Boys.
Oh, that's the one you went with?
That's the one I went with.
No, I'm so sorry, Brain Boys. You could have had something cool.
Dr. Neil Montrose is known as Doc. Jake Civic is known as Jake or
really
Twitch.
Went with Jake Civic?
Yeah. Twitch is somehow better. And Zion 8870.0 is known as Psy.
Why not just any of the numbers?
I don't know. It's Psy. Archive 66. Archive 66's most wanted list.
Oh.
Live, classification, demon. Lucy, classification, demon. Selena Stone, classification, vampire. Liam Morrow, classification, assassin. That's why he's a shapeshifter now. I see.
Oh, he's no longer a vampire.
Yeah, there's a section in almost every state. There are 2 in California. So much fucked up crap happens in California.
Amen, sister.
Section 1 is located in New York City, in Manhattan. So at least I set this in a place I had actually been this time.
Aw.
Yeah. There's a secret facility that deals with They are a secret facility that deals with the not so everyday bad guy. And I have a post-it note on here that just has a random blurb of dialogue.
Okay.
Vampires? Yeah, right. I bet they sparkle too, Chris scoffed. That was a bad idea, newbie, Marks warned. Why? Cat. You have been reading too much Twilight. I think I might make you lunch.
Oh, that's so nice. I'll have a turkey sandwich, please. Thank you.
Rips into throat. All right, Chronicle 1. Welcome to Archive 66. Chris Smythe is different. No one knows why or
like
how.
the back of the book blurb?
Yes.
Okay.
Chris Smythe is different. No one knows why or how. He's just different. Chris is in denial about this. He doesn't have many friends and he has a boring job. At 20 years old, he is sick of life. He found it depressingly bland. One day, though, it was a Tuesday, he decided to close up the store he worked at. Just before he locked the door, a couple ran into the door, and they were followed by a werewolf.
Oh.
Carter Marks and Samantha Atkins are the senior agents of Archive 66's Section 1. They were the couple that ran into the store. After battling the werewolf, Marks tries to use the Memoria charm to erase Chris's memory, and it doesn't work. Chris becomes an agent, and the team goes after a pack of werewolves.
You can't force me to quit my job just because of what does or does not happen to me around magic. I'm pretty sure that's in the Constitution.
Constitution, schmonstitution.
Yeah, Schmonstitution. It's for the monsters.
Chronicle 2. Who doesn't love the circus? Apparently not the Disney version anymore. A circus sets up in Central Park. It's very magnificent, but also peculiar. The acts are spectacular and fun. The family will have a blast. Children have the most fun. Each child gets a chance to go through the funhouse, but they never seem to come out the same.
That's actually kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
it's us.
It's no. No. We have to sue us.
Chronicle 3, the Disney version.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Cannibalistic old witches, girls in red hoods being mauled by a wolf, a beautiful girl that falls into a deep slumber. Sensing a theme here? A witch is taking these fairy tales very seriously and makes people play the characters. When a person receives a letter holding the name of the character, they become them.
I mean, technically that's accurate. And
anyway, Samantha draws Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, is Samantha one of the agents?
Yeah.
Why did she... It sounds like they have a choice when they get this letter. Just don't look at it.
Just don't open it. Chronicle 4, Fishing Expedition. Mermaids begin floating belly up in the Hudson River. Cat makes friends with a guy...
Jesus. Is this like a pollution story?
Cat makes friends with a guy named Finn. The team finds out that the mermaid's eternal life was drained and that they are looking for a serial killer. So we stopped going through potential episodes.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. And now there's just a blurb. Were you afraid of the dark as a child? Scared of the monster under the bed? The boogeyman in the closet? Well, you have every right to be. There are some very dark and scary things that live all around you. Seriously, there's an agency for that. There is an agency that specializes in it. They deal with the not-so-everyday average bad guy. This agency has sections in almost every state. There are actually 3 of them in Canada. Believe it or not, so much effed up crap happens in Canada.
Okay, you went from kicking California for being real bad to Canada.
Degrassi, hello. Most of the agents are humans, but some of the others are more special. Let's just say... Why?
It's very literally racist.
Why?
Humans aren't great, but these other species of creature are.
Yeah. Let's just say everything you think you know is wrong. Welcome to Archive 66. And then I just have a list of chronicles, but with no blurbs.
Just titles?
Yeah. So we did 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 is Pictures Worth 1,000 Words. 6 is Fear Itself. 7 is Lucy and Lithe. 8 is Which Witch is Which. 9 is Child's Play. 10, Blackout.
Oh, that's just the Chucky movie.
11, Jurisdiction, not spelled correctly. 12, Old Friends. 13, Flashback and Forth. 14, Fur Flying Frenzy. 15, Don't Bug Me. 16, Rabid. 17 was the old switcheroo, but then I changed it to Sibling Rivalry because I crossed it out. Then 18 was Siren, but then I changed that to the old switcheroo.
Sure.
Chronicle 19 is Agent Meanie Butt. Chronicle 20 is called Truth. Chronicle 21 was Lucy's Day Off, and then I crossed it out and put Control. And
yeah, Lucy's been defeated at this point.
Maybe. And Chronicle 22 is Apocalypse Now-ish.
Well, you had a vision
for
where that series was going.
Okay. So I have a list of a few bullet points of what I wanted to happen in the first book. It says, take Chris to base, wakes up to Dave and Darian, gets tutorial, Captain gives him a temp badge, welcome to Archive 66, Sabrina smiled. That's it. And then I have...
Just gotta make sure that Sabrina smiles. That's the important part.
And then
That's
have
the catharsis.
3 Post-it notes stacked on top of each other on top of this piece of paper.
Okay, for further notes.
Who shut off the lights? Darius wondered. That's from Blackout.
That wasn't one of the episodes.
Yes, it was.
Oh.
It's Chronicle 10.
10. Okay.
Can vampires get rabies? Cause Michael looks like he's about to foam at the mouth. David from Rabid.
So the plot of that is vampire rabies?
I have fangs. That's Chris. And it's in the old switcheroo.
Oh, their minds get switched with their bodies.
So yeah, that was Archive 66. It has like a lot of fun and a lot of promise.
It's SVU meets Supernatural.
It's Special Unit 2. It's just Special Unit 2. Please, everyone listening to this, look that up. It was a show that absolutely should have lasted longer than it did, but then UPN died, and it was...
What's UPN?
UPN was a network before it became the WB, which then became the CW.
Oh.
UPN was purchased, though. It was its own like separate entity, but Special Unit 2 definitely inspired this show. And I just basically combined the things that I love, which is police procedural and monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really did.
I did.
Okay. It was funny to see just how you had just scenes. There weren't stories ever. Just scenes.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do I give it? I'm going to give it I'm going to give it an H for has potential, but maybe another round of notes.
maybe a couple more rounds of development. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Short Stuff on the A for Effort podcast. And don't forget, you're not good at something until you suck at it first.
And tune in for where we start a new podcast where we just workshop
Archive 66.
It's just hours and hours of us developing a TV show.
Goodbye. Oh, wait. But if you're actually interested in that, leave a comment below.
I don't want to do that. Please don't leave a comment below.
You put it on the internet. It's too late. Goodbye.